My sister changed the locks on the luxury apartment I leased for us, laughing that she finally had privacy for her and her fiancé. She didn't realize I had already contacted the landlord to terminate the agreement, turning their dream home into an eviction zone. This is where the story truly begins, and you won't want to miss what happens. Make sure you're subscribed to see it through to the end. We're always curious. Where in the world are you all watching from today? Let us know in the comments. The hallway of the Meridian Heights building was always kept at a precise, chilly 68 degrees. But that afternoon, standing in front of door 4B, the cold seemed to seep right through the marrow of my bones. I shifted the weight of the paper grocery bags in my arms, the plastic handles digging into my palms. My shoulders ached. I had just come from a 12-hour shift at the firm, followed immediately by a consultation with a client who had screamed at me for an hour about a contract clause he had failed to read. I was exhausted. My head was throbbing with the beginning of a migraine, and all I wanted was to put the groceries away, take a hot shower, and collapse. I leaned forward and slid my key into the lock. It didn't turn. I frowned, pulling it out and checking the teeth. It was definitely the right key. I tried again, wiggling it, applying a little more pressure. Nothing. It hit a hard, mechanical stop. It felt like the wrong shape entirely. "Come on," I whispered, panic rising in my chest. "Not today." I knocked on the wood sharply. "Bella, are you in there? The lock is jamming again." There was silence for a long moment. Then I heard the sound of footsteps. They weren't the quick, light steps of my sister coming to help. They were slow, deliberate. I heard the deadbolt slide back, the new deadbolt, I realized with a jolt, and the door opened just a crack. The safety chain was still engaged. My sister's face appeared in the gap. She was wearing my silk robe, the one I had bought myself for my 30th birthday, and she looked perfectly manicured, her hair blown out, her makeup flawless. She didn't look like someone who lived with her sister. She looked like the lady of the manor addressing a solicitor. "Bella," I asked, confused. "What's going on? My key isn't working. And why is the chain on?" Bella smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. It was a tight, triumphant little smirk. "Hey, Amelia. Yeah, the key won't work. Jason changed the cylinder this morning." I blinked, the grocery bags slipping slightly. "He what? Why? We rent this place, Bella. You can't just change the locks without the landlord's permission. And why didn't you give me a copy?" She let out a short, dismissive laugh. "Well, that's the point, isn't it? We didn't give you a copy because we need our space. Jason and we're starting our life. We can't have you barging in whenever you want." The air left my lungs. "Barging in? Amelia, I live here. My name is on the lease. I pay the rent. What are you talking about?" "You paid the rent," she corrected, her voice dripping with condescension. "But we're taking over now. We're the couple. We're the ones building a future. Honestly, Amelia, it's been getting weird having you around. You're always so. Hover why it's cramping Jason's style." "I'm cramping his style?" I repeated, my voice rising. "I pay for the internet he games on. I pay for the electricity he wastes. Open the door, Bella. I have groceries. I'm tired." "No," she said simply. Behind her, I saw Jason stroll into view. He was holding a glass of wine, my expensive Pinot Noir that I had been saving for a special occasion. He leaned against the doorframe, smirking over Bella's shoulder. "She's still out there?" Jason asked, not even looking at me directly. "Tell her to leave the groceries if she wants, but she's got to go." "You heard him," Bella said, starting to close the door. "Bella, stop," I shouted, jamming my foot in the gap before the door could shut. "You cannot do this. All my things are in there. My laptop, my files, my clothes. This is illegal." "Don't be dramatic," Bella snapped. "We packed a bag for you. It's in the lobby with the concierge. As for the rest, we'll let you know when you can come pick it up. Maybe next weekend. We're hosting a dinner party tonight, and we really don't want a scene." "A dinner party?" I felt tears pricking my eyes, not of sadness but of pure, white-hot rage. "In my apartment." "Our apartment," Jason corrected from the back. "Go away, Amelia," Bella hissed. "You're embarrassing yourself. You're supposed to be this big-shot legal consultant, figure it out. Just go stay with that friend of yours, Rachel. You always liked her better anyway. She shoved the door hard. My foot slipped on the polished floor, and the heavy wood slammed shut in my face. The sound echoed through the hallway like a gunshot. I stood there for a full minute, staring at the wood grain. I could hear them laughing on the other side. I could hear the clink of glasses. The betrayal was worse than the diagnosis of the flu I had fought off last month, worse than any breakup I had ever endured. My own sister, the girl I had practically raised, had locked me out of my own life. "Fine," I whispered to the closed door, my voice trembling. "You want to play house. Let's see how you handle the mortgage." I didn't leave the groceries. I petty-tossed them right in front of the door, eggs, milk, pasta sauce, hoping that when they finally came out, Jason would trip over them and ruin his shoes. It was a childish gesture, but in that moment, stripped of my dignity and my home, it was the only rebellion I had. I took the elevator down to the lobby, my vision blurry. The concierge, a kind older man named Mr. Henderson, looked at me with pity as he handed me a single duffel bag. "Ms. Amelia," he said softly, "your sister. She said you were moving out. I thought it was strange." "I didn't know I was moving out either, Mr. Henderson," I said, my voice hoarse. Did they give you a new key?" He shook his head. "No, ma'am. They said it was a private lock. I told Mr. Jason that was against building regulations, but he told me to—" He paused, looking embarrassed. "He told me to mind my own minimum wage business." My hands clenched around the strap of the duffel bag. "I see. Thank you, Mr. Henderson. I'm sorry he spoke to you that way." I walked out into the rain, because of course it was raining, and hailed a cab. I gave the driver Rachel's address. Rachel had been my best friend since law school. She was fierce, loyal, and the only person who had ever warned me that Bella was a parasite. I had defended Bella then. I felt like an idiot now. When I arrived at Rachel's, I looked like a drowned rat. She opened the door, took one look at my face, and pulled me into a hug without asking a single question. She dragged me inside, wrapped me in a blanket, and poured me a glass of whiskey. "Talk," she commanded, sitting opposite me on her sofa. I told her everything, the changed locks, the chain, Jason drinking my wine, the dinner party. Rachel listened, her expression darkening with every sentence. "That little witch," she muttered. "And Jason, that unemployed leech has the audacity to tell the concierge to mind his business." "They packed me a bag, Rachel," I said, gesturing to the duffel. "I haven't even opened it yet. I'm afraid to see what they decided I was allowed to keep." I reached for my phone. I had 5 missed calls from our aunt who lived 3 states away. I ignored them. I knew exactly what was happening. Bella was spinning the narrative already. Then my phone buzzed with a FaceTime request. It was Bella. "Don't answer it," Rachel warned. "I have to," I said, my thumb hovering over the green butts. "I need to know what they think they're doing." I accepted the call. Bella's face filled the screen. She was beaming. The background noise was loud, music chatter. They were already having their party. "Oh good, you're alive," Bella said, her voice slurring slightly. She held the phone up high, panning the camera around the room. I saw my living room, my furniture, my art on the walls. There were about 10 people there, mostly Jason's frat boy friends and a few of Bella's influencer wannabe acquaintances. They were treating my home like a frat house. Someone was using a coaster as a frisbee. "Why are you calling me, Bella?" I asked, my voice deadly calm. She turned the camera back to herself. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a set of shiny, brass keys on a glittery keychain that said Queen. "I just wanted to make sure you weren't going to do anything stupid like call the cops," she giggled, jingling the keys in front of the camera lens. "Jason said we should invite you, but I said no, let her cool off. Besides, look at this." She shook the keys again. "No one can kick us out now, Amelia. We have the keys. Possession is 9/10 of the law, right? You're the lawyer, you should know that. We're safe. This is our sanctuary now." I watched the keys catch the light. I watched Jason come up behind her and kiss her neck, smirking at the camera. "Tell her to cancel the credit card for the groceries," Jason laughed. "We need to order pizza." "Yeah, Amelia," Bella said. "Don't be petty, we'll pay you rent eventually, when Jason's startup takes off. Until then, just consider it a gift to your baby sister. You have so much and we have nothing. It's only fair." "Fair," I repeated. "Anyway, gotta go, guests to entertain," Bella chirped. "Don't come back without calling first." The screen went black. I stared at the phone in my lap. Rachel was looking at me, her eyes wide. Did she really just say possession is 9/10 of the law to a property law consultant? A strange sensation washed over me. The anger was still there, hot and heavy. But beneath it, something colder and sharper was beginning to form. My legal brain, which had been paralyzed by shock, was waking up. "She did," I said softly. I looked at Rachel. They think changing the physical lock matters. They think holding a piece of brass makes them owners. I took a sip of the whiskey, the burns settling in my stomach. "But they forgot one thing," I said, a slow, dark smile touching my lips for the first time that day. "They forgot who actually signed the documents. To understand why this betrayal cut so deep, you have to understand the history. I hadn't just been a sister to Bella, I had been her safety net, her bank account, and her shield for over a decade. Our parents died when I was 22 and Bella was 16. I was in my first year of law school, barely sleeping, surviving on caffeine and ambition. When the accident happened, I didn't hesitate. I dropped out of the prestigious clerkship I had lined up to move back home. I took a job at a smaller firm that paid less but offered flexible hours so I could drive Bella to school, attend her parent-teacher conferences, and manage her teenage meltdowns. I sold our parents' house to pay for her college tuition, a degree in fashion marketing that she never used. I funded her 3 gap years where she traveled to Bali and Chelum to find herself. When she came back, claiming she wanted to get serious about life, I was the one who helped her get an internship. And when she met Jason 6 months ago, I tried to be happy for her. Jason was 30, but he acted 21. He described himself as a visionary. In reality, he was a man who jumped from one get-rich-quick scheme to another. First, it was dropshipping. Then, it was NFTs. Now, it was some vague AI consulting business that seemed to involve him sitting on my couch in his underwear, playing video games while monitoring the markets. When Bella asked to move in with me just for a few weeks, while she and Jason looked for a place, I agreed. I had a spacious 3-bedroom apartment in a high-end building downtown. It was expensive, but my career had finally taken off and I could afford it. "Just until we find our footing," she had promised, hugging me. That was 4 months ago. In those 4 months, footing apparently meant Bella quitting her job because her boss didn't vibe with her energy, and Jason moving his entire gaming setup into my home office. They stopped buying groceries after week 2. They stopped doing dishes immediately. If I asked them to clean up, Bella would pout and say I was stressing her out and that her anxiety couldn't handle my controlling nature. But the apartment, that was the final straw. We were living in my place, but Bella had started complaining it was too small. She wanted a balcony. She wanted a view. She found the listing for the penthouse suite in the Meridian Heights, the apartment I was currently locked out of. "It's perfect, Amelia," she had begged. "Look, the rent is high, but Jason is about to close a huge deal. If you sign the lease, we'll pay half. I promise, please, it would be a fresh start for all of us." I was skeptical, but I loved her. And deep down, I wanted her to be happy. I wanted to believe in them, so against my better judgment, I applied. My credit score was immaculate. My income was substantial. The landlord, Mr. Russo, loved me on paper. I signed the lease, only me. Bella had tried to get Jason on the lease, but Mr. Russo had taken one look at Jason's credit history, or lack thereof, and laughed. "Absolutely not," he had said. "Ms. Amelia is the only financially liable party I trust." So I signed. I paid the first month, the last month, and the security deposit. a total of $12,000 up front. Bella and Jason promised to transfer their share once the bank cleared the funds. The funds never cleared. They moved in, claimed the master bedroom with the ensuite bath, leaving me the smaller guest room, and started acting like they owned the place. And now, here we were. I sat in Rachel's living room, staring at the wall. "They think I'm weak," I said to Rachel. "They think because I've always cleaned up their messes, I'll clean this one up too. They think I'll just keep paying the rent so they don't get evicted, because I care about my credit score too much." Rachel swirled her wine. "Well, they're right about one thing, you do care about your credit score." "I do," I admitted, "but I care about respect more." I thought about Jason's smirk. I thought about Bella shaking those keys, claiming possession. "Tell me about the lease," Rachel asked, leaning forward. "What exactly does it say about guests, about locks?" I closed my eyes, visualizing the standard residential lease agreement I had drafted and reviewed hundreds of times for clients. I knew the Meridian Heights contract by heart because I had redlined a few clauses before signing it. Clause 14, prohibited. Conduct, I recited from memory. Tenant shall not change, alter, or add any locks without prior written consent of landlord. Any unauthorized change of locks constitutes a material breach of this lease. I opened my eyes. And Clause 8, occupancy. The premises shall be occupied only by the tenant named above. Guests staying longer than 7 consecutive days requires landlord approval. Unauthorized occupants are grounds for immediate termination. Rachel grinned, a shark-like expression that mirrored my own internal monologue. So, technically, they aren't tenants. They aren't even subtenants. "No," I said, reaching for my phone again. "Technically, they are trespassers." I stood up, the exhaustion fading, replaced by a surge of adrenaline. "Bella thinks she won the game because she holds the physical key," I said, walking toward the window and looking out at the city skyline. "She doesn't understand that the key is just a piece of metal. The power is in the paper." "What are you going to do?" Rachel asked. "I'm going to let them have their party," I said. "I'm going to let them settle in. I want them to feel completely, totally secure. I want them to unpack every single box." I turned back to Rachel. "And then, I'm going to introduce them to the brutal reality of property law." The morning sun hit Rachel's living room floor, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air, but I felt none of the warmth. I sat at her dining table, my laptop open, a notepad to my right, and a cooling cup of coffee to my left. I had shifted gears. The hurt sister was gone, the legal consultant was clocked in. My first move wasn't to scream or cry. It was to call Mr. Russo. Mr. Russo was an old-school landlord. He owned half the block, drove a beat-up Cadillac despite being a multimillionaire, and had zero tolerance for nonsense. He liked me because I paid early and I read the fine print. He respected the fine print. "Mr. Russo," I said when he picked up on the third ring. "It's Amelia. We have a problem at the Meridian unit." "Amelia," his gruff voice crackled. "Don't tell me the plumbing is acting up again. I just paid that guy." "It's not the plumbing," I said, keeping my voice steady, professional. "It's the locks. They've been changed." There was a pause, a heavy, dangerous silence. "Changed? By who? I didn't authorize a locksmith." "My sister and her fiancé," I explained. "They have physically barred me from the unit. They are currently in exclusive possession of the property, and they have installed a cylinder that I do not have a key to." I heard a sharp intake of breath, followed by a curse word in Italian that I didn't need a translation for. "That is a violation of Clause 14. You know this. I can have the sheriff there by noon." "I know," I said quickly. "And normally I would say go ahead. But Mr. Russo, if we go the sheriff route, it's an eviction. It goes on my record because I'm the leaseholder. It takes months. They might damage the place out of spite before they leave." "So what do you want to do?" he asked, his tone impatient. "I can't have unauthorized tenants changing my hardware." "I want to initiate a mutual termination of lease due to safety concerns," I said. I am formally notifying you that I can no longer occupy the premises. Under the terms we discussed, if the tenant is barred from entry, the lease becomes voidable. I am asking you to void it. Today. You want to cancel the contract? He asked, surprised. You just moved in. I want to terminate my liability, I corrected. I want you to draft a notice that the lease is terminated effective immediately due to lease violations, and that all occupants must vacate within 48 hours or face criminal trespassing charges. Not civil eviction. Criminal trespassing. I heard the rustle of papers on his end. You want me to scare them out? I want you to give me the legal ammunition to get them out, I said. Draft the notice. Sign it. Send it to me. I will serve it to them personally. If they aren't out in 48 hours, you call the police for trespassing, and I will testify that I did not give them permission to stay. You're a shark, Amelia, he grunted. I like it. You'll have the paper by noon. I hung up. Step 1 was complete. I had just turned their trophy apartment into a ticking time bomb. Step 2 was Jason. I opened a new tab on my browser. I didn't use Google. I used the paid legal databases my firm subscribed to LexisNexis and a comprehensive background check service used for vetting high-profile employees. Jason claimed to be an entrepreneur. He claimed to be waiting on a liquidity event. I typed in his full name, Jason Arthur Miller. The screen populated. I scrolled past the speeding tickets. I scrolled past a dismissed disorderly conduct charge from his college days. Then, I hit the civil court records. My eyes widened. Civil Court of Fulton County, eviction proceedings. Plaintiff, hi. Land properties, defendant Jason A. Miller, judgment for plaintiff. Civil Court of DeKalb County, unlawful detainer. Plaintiff, Sarah Jenkins, defendant Jason A. Miller, judgment for plaintiff. He wasn't just broke, he was a professional squatter. The second record caught my eye, Sarah Jenkins. It wasn't a property management company, it was an individual. I clicked into the details. It was a domestic dispute case. He had moved in with a girlfriend, she had tried to break up with him, and he had refused to leave, claiming tenants' rights because he had received mail at the address. It took her 4 months and thousands of dollars in legal fees to get him out. Oh, Bella, I whispered, staring at the screen. You have no idea what you've let in. I printed everything. The eviction judgments, the liens against him for unpaid credit cards, the fact that his LLC had been dissolved by the state 2 years ago for failure to pay taxes. I had the eviction notice coming from Russo. I had Jason's rap sheet. The trap was set. Now, I just had to bait them into stepping into it. I didn't storm the apartment. I texted Bella. We need to talk. I'm staying at a hotel, lie. I'm willing to discuss a co-living arrangement, but we need to set ground rules if I'm going to keep paying the rent. Meet me at the grind at 4 p.m. She replied instantly, finally being reasonable. Okay. Jason is coming too. He needs to approve the terms. I arrived at the grind 15 minutes early. I chose a table in the back, away from the window, but within view of the security camera. I ordered a black coffee. I placed a manila folder face down on the table. At 4:10 p.m., they walked in. They looked like they were on a victory tour. Bella was wearing my sunglasses, my vintage Chanel ones that I kept in a velvet box on the high shelf. Jason was wearing a hoodie that looked brand new, and he had an air of unearned arrogance that made my skin crawl. They sat down, without apologizing for being late. So, Jason started, leaning back and crossing his arms. You ready to apologize for the scene you caused yesterday? I stared at him, keeping my face completely neutral. I'm here to discuss the living situation, Jason, not to apologize for trying to enter my own home. It's our home, Bella corrected, taking a sip of the latte she had ordered at the counter, doubtless using the emergency credit card I had given her for gas. Look, Amelia, we talked about it. We're willing to let you move back in, but things have to change. Oh, I asked, resting my hand on the manila folder. What kind of changes? Bella pulled out a piece of paper, a napkin, actually, with a list scrawled in blue ink. Number 1, she read, no entering the master bedroom, that's our private space. Number 2, no guests after 9 p.m. Jason needs quiet to work on his trading algorithms. Number 3, you need to buy better groceries. Jason is on a keto diet now, and the pasta you bought is useless. She looked up at me, expecting me to argue, expecting me to negotiate. And regarding the rent, I asked softly. Jason jumped in. You keep paying it, obviously. I'm wrapping up a funding round. Once that hits, in maybe 6 months, I'll take over. But for now, consider it your contribution to the family. My contribution, I repeated, to the family. Yes, Bella said, looking annoyed. God, Amelia, why do you have to make everything so transactional? We're family, you help us, we provide the vibe, we make the place a home. I looked at my sister. I looked at the dark circles under her eyes that she had tried to cover with concealer. She looked tired, despite her bravado. She was working so hard to please this man who was using her as a human shield. I have a counteroffer, I said. I flipped the manila folder over and slid it across the table. What's this? Jason asked, picking it up suspiciously. That, I said, taking a sip of my black coffee, is a copy of the notice of lease termination I signed with Mr. Russo this morning. Jason froze. He stared at the paper. What does this mean? Bella asked, looking between us. It means, I said clearly, ensuring my voice carried just enough for the recording app on my phone to pick it up, that the lease for apartment 4B is over. I voluntarily terminated it due to a breach of contract, specifically unauthorized occupants and unauthorized alteration of hardware. Jason slammed the paper down. You can't do that, we live there. No, Jason, I said, my voice hardening. I lived there, you were a guest, and now you are a trespasser. Mr. Russo has accepted the termination. The apartment is going back on the market on Friday. That gives you exactly 24 hours to get your things and get out. You're lying, Bella whispered. You wouldn't kick me out, I'm your sister. I'm not kicking you out, Bella, I said, leaning forward. I'm saving myself. I am not going to pay $4,000 a mo. Nth to sleep in a guest room while he, I pointed a finger at Jason, drinks my wine and tells me I'm cramping his style. We're not leaving, Jason sneered, his face turning an ugly shade of red. We have rights, squatters' rights. You can't just throw us out. Actually, I smiled, since you've been there less than 30 days, you have no tenancy rights. And since the lease is legally voided as of this morning, if you are still there tomorrow at 5 p.m., Mr. Russo is calling the police to have you removed for criminal trespassing. It's not an eviction, Jason. It's an arrest. Jason stood up, knocking the chair back. You be *TCH. You planned this. Yes, I said calmly. I did. Come on, Bella. Jason grabbed her arm hard. She's bluffing. We're going back to the apartment. Let's see her try to bring the cops. Bella looked at me, her eyes wide with panic. Amelia, please, don't do this. We have nowhere to go. You have 24 hours, I said, not breaking eye contact. I suggest you start packing. Jason dragged her out of the coffee shop. Bella looked back at me once, terrifyingly torn, before the door swung shut behind them. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from the adrenaline of finally cutting the cord. I thought the threat of police would be enough. I underestimated Jason's desperation. By that evening, the texts had started. Not from Bella, but from Jason's phone, sent by Bella. Amelia, please, Jason is having a panic attack. He says you're ruining his life. He was about to sign a contract, and now he can't focus. How can you be so selfish? Then came the social media post. Rachel found it and sent it to me. Jason had posted a long, rambling story on Instagram, tagging me. Imagine your own family throwing you out on the street out of jealousy. Some people can't stand to see others happy. Toxic family jealousy grindset. I read it and felt a cold knot in my stomach. He was controlling the narrative. He was isolating Bella, making her feel like it was them against the world, and I was the villain. I needed to break his hold on her. The lease termination was the stick, but I needed to show her the reality of the man she was defending. I called Bella, she sent me to voicemail, I called again, voicemail. I texted her, I'm not bluffing about the police, but before you decide to go down with the ship, you need to see something. Check your email. I opened the PDF file I had compiled, the Jason portfolio. It contained the court records of his 2 previous evictions. It contained the domestic dispute filing from Sarah Jenkins, where she detailed how he had drained her savings account and refused to leave her apartment until the sheriff physically removed him. I hit send. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. It was Bella. Is this real? She asked, her voice trembling. She sounded like she was crying. Yes, Bella, I said, pacing Rachel's living room. These are public records. He's done this before. He moves in, he takes over, he stops paying, and he refuses to leave until he's forced out. He's not a visionary, he's a parasite. He told me his ex was crazy, Bella sobbed. He said she was abusive. That's what guys like him always say, I said gently. Look at the dates, Bella. The last eviction was 4 months ago, exactly when he met you. He didn't fall in love with you, Bella. He was looking for a new host because his last one kicked him out. I heard a muffled noise on the other end. Then, Jason's voice, distant but screaming. Who are you talking to? Give me the phone. No, Jason, wait, Bella cried out. Give me the damn phone. There was a scuffle, a crash that sounded like a lamp breaking, and then the line went dead. Bella, I screamed, Bella. I tried to call back, straight to voicemail. I looked at Rachel, he caught her. We need to go there, Rachel said, standing up and grabbing her keys. Now. No, I said, forcing myself to think like a lawyer, not a sister. If I go there now, I'm the aggressor. I'm the crazy sister breaking in. He'll spin it. So we just wait. We wait for the deadline, I said, my voice like ice. Mr. Russo posted the notice to quit on the door an hour ago. I got the photo confirmation. Jason likely tore it down, but legally it's served. I looked at the clock. It was 8 p.m. Tomorrow at 5 p.m., the lease is dead, I said. And tomorrow night, we aren't just going to kick him out. We're going to expose him. How? Rachel asked. Bella mentioned a dinner party for his investors was rescheduled for tomorrow night, I said, remembering a detail Bella had let slip during her coffee shop rant about me ruining their schedule. He's trying to court money from some of his frat buddies to pay for a new place. I grabbed my coat. I'm not going to stop the party, I said. I'm going to crash it, and I'm bringing the sheriff. The stage was set. Jason thought he could bully B. Ella into silence and ignore the law. He thought the notice to quit was just a piece of paper. He was about to learn that in my world, paper cuts deep. The hallway of the Meridian Heights was quiet, the kind of heavy, expensive silence that you pay a premium for in the city. But as the elevator doors slid open on the 4th floor, the bass from Unit 4B vibrated through the soles of my boots. I wasn't alone this time. To my left stood Mr. Russo, wearing a faded trench coat and a scowl that could curdle milk. To my right were 2 uniformed sheriff's deputies, their hands resting casually on their belts. Behind me, Rachel stood like a sentinel, holding a clipboard with every document I had printed. The lease termination, the proof of ownership, and the printouts of Jason's past evictions. I checked my watch, 5:15 p.m. The deadline had passed 15 minutes ago. You ready, Ms. Amelia? The older deputy, Officer Miller, asked. I'm ready, I said, though my heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I wasn't afraid of Jason anymore. I was afraid of what I was about to find inside. I was afraid of what he had done to Bella. Mr. Russo stepped forward. He didn't knock. He pulled out a heavy master key ring, selected a silver key, and jammed it into the lock, the new lock Jason had installed. He didn't give me a copy, Russo grunted, but the super has a bypass tool for emergencies. and I consider unauthorized tenants an emergency." He twisted the tool. There was a satisfying click, followed by the groan of the deadbolt sliding back. Mr. Russo kicked the door open. The scene inside was a caricature of success. The living room was filled with about 15 people. There was a buffet table set up on my vintage teak sideboard, laden with what looked like expensive catering. Bottles of champagne were sweating on my coffee table. The air smelled of expensive cologne and stale marijuana smoke. In the center of the room, Jason was standing on a chair, my velvet accent chair, holding a glass of champagne high in the air. He was mid-speech. "And that's the beauty of the Visionary Fund," he was shouting over the music. "We disrupt the market, we take what we want and we build empires. This apartment, this is just the headquarters, the first of many." The music cut abruptly as the deputies stepped into the room. The silence that followed was absolute. 15 heads turned toward the door. Jason froze on the chair, his arms still raised, looking like a statue of a fool. "Party S over," Mr. Russo barked, his voice booming through the apartment. "Everyone out, now." Jason scrambled down from the chair, nearly tripping. He smoothed his hoodie, trying to regain his composure, but his eyes were darting between the deputies and me. "Whoa, whoa," Jason said, putting on his best salesman's smile, though it twitched at the corners. "Officers, this is a misunderstanding. This is a private residence. We're hosting a business meeting." He pointed a shaking finger at me. "She's the one causing trouble. She's a disgruntled family member. I've already told the concierge." "Jason Arthur Miller," Officer Miller interrupted, stepping past me into the room. "Yes, but—" "I'm serving you with a trespass notice," the deputy said, his voice bored and authoritative. "The lease on this property was terminated yesterday. The owner of the building," he gestured to Mr. Russo, "has filed a complaint. You have no legal right to be on these premises." A murmur went through the crowd. I scanned the room, looking for Bella. I found her in the corner near the kitchen island. She was wearing a dress that looked too expensive for her budget, but she looked small, pale. She was holding her arm close to her chest, and she was staring at me with wide, terrified eyes. "This is Bull's *******, Jason yelled, his facade cracking. "We have rights. I have a verbal contract with her." He pointed at me again. "She said we could stay. She's lying to you." I stepped forward into the room. The crowd parted for me like the Red Sea. I walked until I was face to face with Jason. He smelled of sweat and fear. "I have no contract with you, Jason," I said, my voice steady and loud enough for everyone to hear. "I never did. You are not a tenant. You are a guest who overstayed his welcome by 4 months." I turned to the room, addressing his investors. "For those of you thinking of giving this man money," I said, taking the clipboard from Rachel and holding up the documents, "you should know that as of 5:00 p.m. today, Jason is homeless. He has been evicted twice in the last 2 years for non-payment of rent. He is currently illegally occupying this apartment, and he has lied to every single one of you about his assets." I tossed the clipboard onto the coffee table. The papers fanned out. The mugshot from his disorderly conduct charge was visible on top. "He doesn't have an empire," I said cold. "He has a history of fraud." "One of these." T.S., a guy in a suit who looked like he actually had money to lose, picked up the clipboard. He scanned the top page, then looked at Jason with disgust. "You told me you own this place," the man said. "You said the deed was in a trust." It's complicated," Jason stammered, sweat beading on his forehead. "She's manipulating the paperwork. She's a lawyer, she knows how to twist things." "I'm leaving," the man said, dropping the clipboard. He walked to the door. "Wait, Mike, don't listen to her." Jason chased after him, but the deputy blocked his path. "Mr. Miller, you need to grab your personal essentials," the deputy said. "You are being removed from the premises. If you resist, you will be arrested." Jason spun around, his eyes wild. He looked for a lifeline. He looked at Bella. "Bella," he screamed. Tell them we live here. Tell them she gave us the apartment." The room went silent again. All eyes were on my sister. Bella stood by the kitchen island. She looked at Jason, really looked at him, perhaps for the first time without the rose-colored glasses of his manipulation. She looked at the desperate, sweating man who was screaming at her to lie for him. Then she looked at me. She saw the worry in my eyes. She looked down at the clipboard on the table, at the undeniable proof of his past lies, the proof I had sent her, which he had tried to hide. Bella took a breath. She stepped away from the counter. "No," she said. Her voice was quiet, but it carried. "What did you say?" Jason hissed, stepping toward her aggressively. The deputy put a hand on his taser. "I said no," Bella said, louder this time. She lifted her chin. "We don't live here, Jason. Amelia does. We were just mooching." "You traitorous little," Jason lunged, but Officer Miller was faster. He grabbed Jason by the arm and spun him around, slamming him against the wall. "That's enough," the deputy barked. "You're done." "Get your hands off me," Jason shrieked as the handcuffs clicked. "I know my rights. This is kidnapping. Bella, you're dead to me. You hear me? Dead." Bella didn't flinch. She just watched as the deputies dragged him toward the door. As he passed me, Jason spat at my feet. "You'll pay for this, Amelia," he snarled. "You're nothing but a lonely, bitter hag." "Maybe," I said, looking him dead in the eye. "But I'm a lonely, bitter hag with a lease and a clean record. Goodbye, Jason." The door slammed shut behind him. The remaining guests awkwardly shuffled out, mumbling apologies, leaving their half-eaten shrimp and warm champagne behind. Mr. Russo stood by the door, watching them leave like a bouncer at a club. When the last stranger was gone, the apartment was suddenly very big and very quiet. It was just me, Rachel, and Bella. Bella stood in the middle of the ruin of my living room. She looked at the spilled wine on the rug. She looked at the clipboard. Then, her knees seemed to give way, and she sank to the floor, burying her face in her hands. The silence stretched for a long time, broken only by the sound of Bella's muffled sobbing. Rachel moved first. She walked over to the buffet table, grabbed a trash bag from the kitchen, and started sweeping the plastic cups and paper plates into it with ruthless efficiency. The sound of crushing plastic seemed to snap me out of my trance. I walked over to Bella. I didn't say, "I told you so." I didn't ask about the bruise I could see forming on her upper arm where his fingers had dug in yesterday. I just sat down on the floor next to her. "I'm so sorry," Bella choked out, her voice thick with tears. She wouldn't look at me. "I'm so stupid. I'm so stupid." "You're not stupid, Bella," I said softly. "You were used. There's a difference." "He made me believe everything," she whispered. "He made me believe you were the enemy. He said you were trying to control us because you were jealous of our love. It sounds so crazy now, but it made sense then." "That's how people like him work," I said. "They isolate you. They create an us versus them reality. And when you're in the middle of it, it's impossible to see the walls closing in." She finally looked up. Her mascara was running down her cheeks. "I let him change the locks, Amelia. I let him treat you like garbage. I laughed when he made fun of you." "Yeah," I said, the memory of the door slamming in my face still stinging. "You did, and that's going to take a long time to fix. I'm not going to lie and say it's fine. It's not fine." Bella nodded, looking down at her hands. "I know, I don't expect you to forgive me. I'll go to a shelter or something. I can't ask you for anything else." She started to get up, but I put a hand on her knee. "You're not going to a shelter," I said firmly. "You're my sister. You're staying here." She looked at me shocked. "After everything?" "You're staying here," I repeated, "but not in the master bedroom. That's mine again. You're in the guest room, and you're getting a job. A real job, Bella. No more internships, no more finding yourself. You're going to pay rent, even if it's just $200 a month. You need to learn what it costs to have a roof over your head." Bella burst into fresh tears, but these were different. They were tears of relief, of gratitude. She threw her arms around my neck, burying her face in my shoulder. "Thank you," she sobbed. "Thank you, thank you." I held her, patting her hair mechanically. I loved her, I truly did. But as I looked over her shoulder at the apartment, at the wine stain on the rug that would probably never come out, at the scratch on the hardwood floor from where Jason had dragged his chair, I knew that things had changed. I wasn't her savior anymore. I was her landlord. And for the first time in our lives, there were going to be conditions. The next few weeks were a blur of activity. Mr. Russo, surprisingly, didn't evict me. He was impressed by how I handled Jason. "You got guts, kid," he told me as he handed me a new set of keys that couldn't be duplicated without a biometric scan. I paid for the lock change, and I paid for the professional cleaners to scrub every trace of Jason from the unit. We found out later that Jason had fled the state. He had outstanding warrants in 3 counties, and after the sheriff ran his ID properly, he realized he had skipped bail on a fraud charge in Florida. He wouldn't be bothering us again. Bella got a job as a receptionist at a dental office. It wasn't glamorous, and she hated the uniform, but every first of the month, she transferred exactly $400 to my account. She cooked dinner 3 nights a week. She stopped talking about vibes and started talking about savings accounts. One evening, about a month after the party, I came home from work. The apartment was clean. The smell of Jason's cologne was gone, replaced by the scent of lemon polish and roasting chicken. I sat on my balcony, the balcony I paid for, and looked out at the city lights. My phone buzzed. It was a notification from the building app. Guest arrived, Rachel. I smiled. I had my home back. I had my sister back, a humbler, quieter version, but a real one. I took a sip of wine, my wine, which no one else was drinking, and thought about the moment I handed Jason the clipboard. I thought about the look on his face when he realized that his charm had no power over a signed, notarized legal document. Possession might be 9/10 of the law, as Bella had said, but that last 1/10, the one that involves the actual title and the legal standing, that's the one that matters, and that's the one you never, ever want to test me on.